Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of August. I hope you're well. Using the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot for you today. Before we get started, if this reading resonates with you, there will be an extended that you can go and have a look at. Link will be down in the description box. And I have also got now the 6-month overviews for each of the signs. Runs obviously from July to December. That's the second link down in the description box. So if you're interested in either of those, go knock yourself out. Do I have anything else to say? No, not at this point. So let's get you some cards, Sag. Can I have 3 cards for Sagittarius, please? Thank you. There's the first one. Got the 7 of Pentacles in your recent past. Current energy, please. Current energy is justice. Interesting. And what's coming towards Sagittarius in August, please? Thank you. We have the Fool. Aries energy right there. So you've got 2 major arcana straight off the bat. We've got the Devil at the bottom of the deck, followed by the Hierophant, followed by Judgment, followed by Death. Gosh, there's a lot going on underneath the surface here, Sag. We're going to put these to one side because I will come back to those later on. And we'll get some clarifiers. Tell me about the 7 of Pentacles, please. Thank you. Here we are. We have the Magician. And we have the World. Blah. Tell me about Justice. 2 of Pentacles. Justice. I've got the 10 of Wands and the Death card flew out to the side there. I'm just going to kind of put it underneath because I feel like it's relevant because we've seen it in the Shadow card already. Tell me about the Fool, please. We've got the 4 of Wands and the High Priestess. Goodness. Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Sagittarius. It's a big month. It's a big month for a lot of signs. And I'm not quite sure. I don't really know what the astrology is doing at the moment. I think that we've got a ton of planets in retrograde, maybe even as many as 6. But that does not seem to be holding you back in any kind of way here. Not even a little, right? The number of major arcana cards that you've got here at the moment are saying to me that this is a huge month of something. I'll shut the window in a moment, right? So the first one we've got is the 7 of Pentacles. Now, I usually see this as kind of taking stock because there's something about your situation that is not, you know, functioning as you would like. But actually, as I'm looking at this card, it's got an altogether more orderly kind of view of it. We've got, you know, those bales all in the field there. Like, it feels like you've been doing a lot of groundwork. It feels like you've been doing a lot of preparation. Getting all your ducks in a row, even, we might say. And let's not forget that this is in your recent past, right? So if we take the meaning of it, of the 7 of Pentacles as I usually understand it, which is there's something about your situation that isn't quite right, then the layer that this particular interpretation puts on the top is that you saw that there were things that needed doing and you've got on it, right? You've done it. You've been zooming pretty hard on something because we've got the Magician and we've got the World card here. Now, the Magician is bizarrely, for no reason that I can work out, a card that I always associate with Sagittarius anyway. The strict correspondence is either Gemini or Virgo, and for me, I find the notion of the Magician, you know, I create as I speak, abracadabra, to be quite a Gemini thing in and of itself. But then, of course, you've got the creation of the cornucopia by Virgo, so, you know, kind of 6 of one and half doesn't have the other. But there's always shades of the Magician in Sagittarian energy. And even more so when we see the magician depicted as a shaman, right? And I can't tell you why I feel like this. It's just something that is. And it talks about having a really exceptional toolkit in addition to an incredibly strong will. Now, it's an active channeling, it's an active manifestation, you know, it's putting all of those things together, the toolkit that you have, which is dominion over the elements, and combining them in the right way with your determination, with your willpower, to manifest for yourself something that you want. And it seems like you've been doing the groundwork here, using all of this. Shut this fucking window. I'm not going to shut the fucking window. Being literally thwarted by the window. Because something is coming to an end, and there's a really deep sense around you that something is coming to an end, and you're almost, it feels a little bit like you're almost willing it on in some ways, Sag, right? There's a, not an impatience exactly, but there's a fire that's starting to build. You know that there's been the end of a chapter for you, right? And that started some time ago, and you've gone through the process of, you know, kind of consolidating all of the knowledge that and all the wisdom that was presented to you by the old cycle. But it does feel like this last year has been more of a transitional stage. Now, in some ways, your life is unrecognizable to how it was, say, 2 years ago. I feel that quite strongly for most of you. But then it hasn't quite started, it hasn't quite taken off vertically, right? So there are many ways in which you are now much more confident, much more comfortable, much more content, actually, all the C's, let's stick them in there. But in a lot of ways, everything is still the same, right? There have been adjustments, there have been amendments, there are people who have left, people who have gone, you know, new people have come in. But the essential fabric of your life runs pretty much along the same set of tracks. But it feels to me like it's getting ready to change. Maybe change direction, or maybe start bringing in much newer experiences for you. But I think that you have a sense of it, Sag. And if you found with the advent of Leo season that it put somewhat of a little rocket up your ass to get things done, it's quite possibly because you can intuit this impending kind of change in direction that's coming up for you, or a new set of circumstances, you know. And like I said, in some ways it feels a little bit like you're willing it on, because we've got this Ace of Wands here. Okay, I feel you kind of like are reaching for the Ace of Wands, like it's really close, it's almost here, but it's not quite here, you know. And rather than letting yourself get preoccupied about it, you do seem to be ploughing yourself into more of, you know, whatever you've got in front of you, whether it's, you know, your job or your business or your hobbies or whatever, you know, whatever it is that you like to fill your time with. And God, if you want anything doing, give it to a Sag, because provided they remember to do it, like, they'll just zoom their way through it. Now, when we come into your present energy, we have Justice. And if we go with the really obvious interpretation first, it could be that if you have any kind of legal proceedings on the go at the moment, this is the month where they're tying up, right? And where it has been a burden up until this point. And I'm thinking specifically things like, you know, divorce, or maybe, you know, I don't know, like an employment tribunal case that you've had running or something like that. It feels like it's coming to completion now-ish. And where it might have been bothering you at one point, you know, this kind of Saggy, let's just get this fucking done, please. I want to go somewhere else. It's really quietly coming to an end. It doesn't feel like there's a big drama around this. It might actually even be somewhat of an anticlimax for you, Sagittarius, after, you know, waiting for this for so long. But there's something else at play here. We have the Justice card, which is the card of Libra. It talks about balance. It talks about equilibrium. It does talk about karma and consequences too. And then immediately underneath it, we have this Two of Pentacles, another card that talks about balance and equilibrium. Now, for you, it's very important that you try and keep your internal space balanced with a good equilibrium, even when things are really quite challenging, even when you've got a voice in your head that's kind of knittering away at you. And that voice, I would imagine for you, is like sheer impatience, like I am stuck with this situation until it fucks off, and then I can go and do my own thing fully, you know, with every cell of my being. I can go and engage with whatever the new thing is that I'm doing. But I just want to pull another couple of cards, because it feels like there's something much deeper going on underneath the surface here. So I have the Magician again. Good Lord. And we have the Nine of Wands. Tell me about the Ten of Wands, please. Nine of Pentacles. And the Ten of Wands again. Goodness. We have the Ten of Wands twice. But what I like about the Triple Goddess Tarot is that it's actually showing somebody putting the fucking wands down. And that really is the meaning of the Ten of Wands. It is things getting so unbearably burdensome that you come to a point where you go, why am I even fucking carrying these wands? And you put them down. You go, well, I'm going to have a fucking rest now. Maybe I might tuck some under a bush and come back for them later, you know? I like that about this. We've got that here twice. So we've got the Nine of Pentacles here, which is about self-sufficiency and independence. And then we've got the Nine of Wands too, which is about good boundaries. Now, it seems as though whatever situation you've been dealing with, whether it is, you know, legal or otherwise, or whether it's, you know, a much kind of, you know, more spiritually bigger version of that, the time that it has taken for you to get to where you are hasn't been wasted. And although you are impatient to start anew and afresh, you know, really bring that Ten of Wands in to completion, so you can seize hold of the Ace of Wands and go do something else, something that's, you know, makes you much happier. You have been refining this tool set, this toolkit here with the Magician. You know, your boundaries are good, and your boundaries have always been good when it's people that you aren't that close to. And we've discussed, we've certainly touched on at points last year, the idea that whatever situation you extricated yourself from at the beginning of last year, so like, you know, January, February, March 2020, there was an element there of having let perhaps unworthy people onto the wrong side of your boundaries, right? Such that bits of you had to go and fucking hide to survive, you know? And some of that came from this unwillingness to engage in conflict with people that you were very, very close to. And I think a lot of last year, and certainly a great deal of this year, has kind of been sat wondering how that situation appeared in the first place, like how it was that you allowed that to happen, you know, and certainly viewed through the lens of a great deal of relief and gratitude that that situation is not operative anymore, you know. But it feels like you've been developing really healthy boundaries. And maybe for some of you, there was a strange sort of ass backwards codependence that you didn't even realize was there. right? And that was one of the reasons why these unworthy people were able to get underneath your boundary, why you didn't want to engage in any kind of confrontation with them whatsoever. It was a very slippery kind of codependence. That seems to have been completely eradicated in you too. And then we've got this Ten of Wands, but this particular part of this particular journey is coming to an end, and it feels like you've got completions all over happening here, Sagittarius, with that World card there and the Ace of Wands. But you do have the Fool coming towards you in August as well. It feels like there were a particular set of thought processes that you had to engage with, a particular set of insights that you had to develop about yourself before you could fully tie up this new circle. Like I said, it feels a little bit like in some ways you have been in a transitionary period where some things are new but some things are not. And it's been about this. It's been about dealing with this. And I don't think that work is, well, the work is never done, right? But I don't think that this particular aspect of this work is done. But you're now at a point where you cannot believe that you were in the situation that you were in 18 months ago. You can't believe that it took you that long to go, hey, no, just no, I'm out of here, thank you, not doing this anymore, which is what you would do if it was any other situation, if it had been any other person. There's been a true journey of self-exploration that's been going on here. And it's not been all heavy and, awful. It feels like you've been kind of like dipping in when you feel like it, or when something spurred you to do so, something somebody said or something that you've seen, and you're like, oh. And you've been gently putting all these sorts of things together, and it's made for a very emotionally and mentally stable inner space for you. I think for a lot of you, there was what has come through is an understanding that you are not who you were told you were. And that was the important thing. Because now you're looking at it and going, why did I let somebody else tell me what I was? I am the expert on me. And over the course of this time, that's what you've done. You've gone deeper and deeper and deeper. And now you do have a kind of fundamental understanding of who you are. And I think much more respect for who you are than you had before. There are lots of things in your past that you could kind of point to and these things, and I survived and I was resilient and all that sort of thing. And at one point you would have really held that aloft as the thing that was good about you. I've been through some stuff, and you didn't think that you let it affect you on a day-to-day basis. But it feels like you've had a really strong perception shift now. And maybe to a degree, there are a lot of things that you now see you kind of perceived backwards. So when these people who were really, really close to you told you were X, Y, and Z, your first mental response may have been, fuck you, right? That's a standard Saggy thing right there. But it would be immediately tempered by subconscious issues, right? You have a predisposition towards self-sabotage. And you knew just enough about that to know that if you did turn around and say, fuck you, in the way that you wanted to, you would wreck whatever was in front of you. But this insidious kind of slippery nature of what we're dealing with here meant that actually what you did was engage in a far longer term version of self-sabotage. One that refused to honour you in the way that you should have done. And instead you went, okay. You didn't speak your mind, There are always layers to this stuff. Like I said, it's slippery. It winds around. And essentially what I'm saying is that you switched out one really obvious type of self-sabotage that was maybe predicated on a misunderstanding of the situation that you were in. Certainly a lack of honouring a situation that you personally found yourself in, like honouring yourself. For one, that ran much deeper, was much more foundational, and in the long run sabotaged you more, right? All of this is coming to an end because of these insights that you've got about yourself now. Now, when we move to August, this is really, really interesting, because this says to me that whatever you are preparing the ground for, whatever you have been preparing the ground for, it's coming now, right? We have this Aries card of the Fool, and it is about a new cycle, right? Within the tarot, there are cycles within cycles, right? The Ace to the 10 is a cycle, and the, you know, maybe even the Page to the King is a cycle, but the whole of them together are also a cycle within themselves. And when you get to the top, you know, like we see here, we see 9 of Wands, 10 of Wands. You go back to the beginning and you start with the Ace, except that hopefully you start here. You start a new cycle here, building on the back of the experience and the wisdom and the knowledge that you have accrued, and you go that way. And ever does it go thus. So here we have is the World and then the Fool, except that it kind of looks more like that. So whatever you've been tying up for the last year, it looks like it's coming to an end. It looks like it's coming to a state of completion, and maybe that is a divorce. Maybe that is some sort of, I don't know, like some sort of legal proceedings, but it feels like a much bigger change than that. And I think you're here for it all day long. Like, you have in the past had a propensity to look, to leap before you looked, right? Very fire sign energy. Well, not so much Leo, to be fair, but definitely Aries and Sag. But there's no... It doesn't feel reckless here for you, Sagittarius, not at all, because this actually feels like a liberation. It feels like freedom here coming for you. You know, whatever you're pulling away from in this cycle, it's like, with that completion is the absolute and utter knowledge that now you are free to move off in a different direction. And what we've got clarifying it is the Four of Wands and the High Priestess. Now, the Four of Wands is the creation of a new foundation. This is what you've been hankering for. The opportunity to start again afresh, properly, with no residual shit from the old cycle coming through at all, in whatever way that you know, that manifests itself. Fucking forgot my word there for a second. And for a lot of you, it's going to be that new start that you have been intuiting all of this time. Like Sagittarians, very underrated intuitives. I think a lot of signs are incredibly underrated intuitives, actually. But you are, you know, any kind of creature that moves on gut instinct as much as you do has to acknowledge that there is, you know, a huge amount of intuition at play with any given situation. And I think that, like, maybe you've been dreaming about this. Maybe your dreams have been really fucking wild at the moment, right? Maybe it's about synchronicities for you. There's just a few really weird coincidences that are all just sort of happening. But it feels to me like what you have spent your time and effort and mental energy on focusing on over here in this active presentation of this major arcana energy here, and it is, you know, it's very active, very engaged, seems to be having its actual point of manifestation here for you in August. Because, like, people always say that the Emperor and the Empress are kind of like the power couple of the tarot, right? And I see it, I understand it, that, you know, both archetypes are there as the Queen of Queens and the King of Kings, right? It's the ultimate power couple. But fuck me, give me this couple all day long. This one, right? I like them better as a power couple, even though they're not even supposed to be a couple, right? As far as I can tell. Masculine, feminine, obviously, but active, passive. We've got going out and going after, and then we've got allowing to come to you, of receiving. For some of you, it might be a new house. Maybe some of you have been looking to move in some way or another, right? And you put in all of the groundwork, and then all of a sudden, just from nowhere, somebody goes, oh, are you still looking for a house? I've got, this place here. Or, it's much broader than that. It feels opportunistic almost, like a big coincidence almost, if you felt like that, if you believed in that kind of thing. And I absolutely do not believe in coincidences. But the closure of this aspect of your life, the completion of whatever has been hanging on, as a residue, like I said, of your old life, this closes and this appears almost at the same time, right? They're just coming in really, really strong. And this is a Pisces card, and you might be dealing with a Pisces, you might be dealing with an Aries, but I don't really feel like it is. I mean, it feels like this is all very much centered around you, But there's a high level of spiritual activity in you at this time. And that, with you, I feel like it's becoming instinctive almost. If that is a part of you that you have kind of trampled down all this time, then as you are opening up to it more, I posted a meme on Instagram like last year or the year before or something like that, and it was like, when you are open to the message, everyone and everything is the messenger. And that kind of feels like where you're at the moment. The more you're opening up to this aspect of existence, the more it is showing itself to you. Roald Dahl, those who never look for magic will never find it. And it's exactly that. I feel like you really opened yourself up to receiving messages of all description, and more importantly, you're paying attention to what those messages are telling you. Right? Within yourself. I would say, like, as an empath, Aquarian Insight put this really, really well. She said somebody had asked her why she always talked so much, and she said, as an empath, you've got a kind of like internal tuning fork, and when you say something that is absolutely bang on true, this thing just starts going like that. And she's right, that's exactly how it happens. It's a really, really good way of describing it. And I think that you've become very much aware of your internal tuning fork, and more importantly, where it's the difference between instinctive and intuitive, right? As I see it, in so much as that instinct keeps you safe, right? It's a survival mechanism. And maybe your intuition can be too, but that raw animal instinct, that animal side of you, the horse and whatnot, that reacts to things in a split second to keep you safe. And I feel like, Sag, that for you has been your gut instinct, right? That's how it's manifested for you all of this time. Like, oh shit, don't want to be part of this situation, I'm going to head off there, but then, ended up blundering at some point into something that wasn't cool. Your intuition is less about something to run away from and something to be pulled towards. And I feel like this is the difference for you now. You're not running anymore, Sag, and this is a massive fucking deal. This is huge. You're cantering towards things, and maybe at points you've been full gallop, who knows. But for me, the High Priestess represents that, the human side of you rather than the animal side of you, and choosing to go where you are being led, whether it's a trot or a canter or a gallop, that's entirely up to you. But it looks like August is going to be really good, and see the manifestation of that which you have been working towards all of this time. It looks cool as fuck. So I'm going to go over to Vimeo now. I'm going to pull this apart a little bit, see if there are any other messages, which there will be, and see if we can get some detail about August. So if you're interested in that, first link in the description box, come join me over there. If not, no shade, I will see you next time for the mid-month readings, I think. Yes, it will be. Okay, know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.